My name is Christian Sundberg. My body is 42 years old right now. 12 years ago, when I took up a long-term meditation practice, I spontaneously began to have out-of-body experiences. And I also had pre-birth memory return to me. I remember my time of existing before this life as Christian. And I remember the incarnation process and everything that involved, and I remember why I am here on earth.
What is the soul?
In order to understand what the soul is, we first have to understand what is fundamentally real. Here on earth, we believe that matter, substance, form is what is fundamentally real. It's not. The substance that is fundamentally real is consciousness itself, or we could use the word spirit. The world of form appears within consciousness, within spirit. In fact, even your body, it's not that you're in your body, it's that your body is an experience of form and sensation taking place within you. So then to speak to what is the soul is metaphorically a drop in the great ocean of all that is. It is simultaneously one with the whole ocean and also individuated, a precious and sovereign individual piece of the whole. I love the Rumi quote, "You are not just a drop in the ocean, you are the mighty ocean in the drop." Metaphorically, if the soul is a drop in the ocean of all that is, what is the ocean? What is the substance of the ocean? Well, there is no language we can use to possibly describe it. It transcends all form. But if we had to pick just one word, we could use the word love. The substance of life itself is love, total freedom and joy and bliss and creativity. That is the nature of what we are. That's the nature of you and the nature of me. It is the nature of the soul. So when we speak to the soul, we must point out love is our true nature. And that is always true, no matter how deep we have come into this great human story.
Is a soul born? Does a soul die?
So we might wonder, is a soul born or does it die? But the soul is of the substance of being that transcends all of the non-native linear causality that it has given rise to. We could say, in a sense, that the soul has a beginning, but it is not true also to say it is born or that it at one point didn't exist. And it's also not true to say that it could die in some way. The soul is everlasting because it is made of the same stuff, the same substance of being that is at the foundational bottom of all things, the fabric of existence that continues ever and never ends.
What is the soul's relation to Source/God?
The soul always has a profound and integral connection to and relationship with Source or God. There can be no separation. You know, here on earth, we have come to deeply engage an experience of separation. In fact, here on earth, this is like the most separate type of experience we can possibly engage. But even though this is such a deep experience of separation, we can never be separate from the source from which we come. It is our true nature to be one with it. It is the thing that we're always seeking, you could say, while we're here on earth. Here where we experience so much separation, we're always seeking that hole that we feel, always trying to fill that gap. But the gap isn't actually fundamentally real. It's like a deep illusion. The connection with God and with Source always, always remains, and it can never, ever be lost.
What's the difference between a young soul and an old soul?
So what is the difference between a young soul and an old soul? Well, these are concepts, of course, that are tied to human conditioning and human understanding of age or progression. The soul cannot be easily identified on some scale of progression. It transcends all of our world of spectrums, in fact. But, very simply, we could say a young soul is simply a soul that has had less physical experience, and an old soul is a soul that has had more physical experience. Before we come into the physical, we agree to take on certain experiential challenges so that we can grow in a certain way, so that we can refine the quality of our being in a certain way. And so a young soul is simply a soul, we could say, that has had less experience doing that and may have had certain areas of experience that are not as well explored, whereas an old soul, perhaps, has come back many times and has come to integrate many different types of experience here on earth.
What's the purpose of life on the physical plane?
The Earth experience offers a profound opportunity for personal growth and expansion, and not only personal growth and expansion, but the growth and expansion of all that is, which ultimately is the expansion of love and joy. Everything boils down to the expansion of love and joy. That's what we're here to do, to know our true nature as love, and to grow it and expand it through the great and rigorous contrasts of Earth. The contrast of Earth offers us the opportunity to meet experiences that otherwise would not be possible and to refine the quality of our being through those experiences. So the refinement of being that the Earth experience permits can actually be perceived in higher reality systems. Before I had ever been physical, I came across a being who had been physical and had physical experiences, and the quality of his nature was, oh my gosh, it was breathtakingly beautiful, full of light and joy and power. And I had asked him, my goodness, what could you possibly have done to become this, to be this? And he shared with me telepathically that he had lived physical lives and he had engaged experience of profound contrast and difficulty. He had lived with a health condition that was very difficult for him. But in how he chose to meet that condition and how he chose to shine love through it even, he refined, he grew and expanded the depths of what was possible within himself and for all that is actually in how he chose to meet that difficulty. And I wanted to do that too. And it's something that all of us, to one degree or another, are here doing. We are here meeting the great depths of contrast that Earth offers so that we can refine the quality of our being. We can know and feel that deeper, more refined quality of being forever. And so the opportunity to come and have one human lifetime, which is relatively short in the larger context, that is an amazing and precious gift.
Many people experience challenges while living in a body. Does the soul seek such challenges, and if so, why?
In my pre-birth experience, I reviewed my state of being. It was like reviewing and feeling all of the qualities that I knew and understood through the experiences I had had. And I knew that there were certain experiences I could have that would really help me to grow and to evolve as a being, even though on Earth those experiences might seem very difficult. From that side, I could see the profound opportunity of being given the chance to engage this deep contrast. In fact, it was like being given a winning lottery ticket. I know that sounds crazy to the human ego, because here we're up to our eyeballs in suffering. But from that perspective, the opportunity to engage very rigorous constraints and very deep and potentially painful contrast was an amazing opportunity for personal growth that lasts far past the end of the physical experience.
Are human incarnations voluntarily chosen?
Human incarnations are voluntarily chosen. It is something we choose to do because we see the profound opportunity of such an experience. Often when we consider the idea that we voluntarily choose to come to Earth, we reject that idea because the suffering here is so great. And I'm not making light of the profound suffering that occurs on Earth. But I do just want to point out one thing. It is because of fear, that is our yet unevolvedness, that we reject so much of the world and that we close off and pull in, and that we have built up all the ego patterns that have hurt our world so much. If we are able to go into that pain and find at its root the fear that has given rise to it, to go meet that fear and process it and really heal it, then the power of life, the power of the love that is our true nature, can rise up into that and shine and heal even this incredible, difficult set of circumstances that we've created for ourselves here on Earth. The Earth plane offers a very unique set of constraints and a very extreme amount of density that allows us to grow in a way that is Not unavailable elsewhere, but can be achieved so much more efficiently and quickly here, actually. The soul comes to earth to have the experience of creaturehood, to be something specific, something this well defined, something this dense, you could say. In other words, you come to be you, to have the experience of being just you, just this limited human, and to make all the choices that you make in your life. You see, the earth allows the ability to make choices that we end up discovering are either motivated by love or by fear. And the ability to make choices out of love and to overcome fear is one profound opportunity. We come to have this experience of physicality and to integrate it, to really bring it into what we are. And as we do that, we grow, we refine, we expand in ways that we retain long past the end of the physical experience.
Does the soul plan its incarnations ahead of time?
We do plan our incarnations beforehand. In my case, I review this life as Christian like reviewing a vast flowchart of millions and millions of possibilities of what might happen, what might actualize in this life. I felt like what it would be like to be me in all these various branches and avenues. And the thing that decided which avenues would be actualized was free will, my free will choice making, and also the free will of all other participants.
What is the veil of forgetting and why do we need it?
So, how do we incarnate? That process is very difficult to describe from the human point of view, but we could say that consciousness agrees to take on a set of constraints, a set of limitations, and we call that set of limitations the veil. The veil is just a word, but it means all of the limitations that go along with being fully embodied, including the limitations of not remembering all the rest of what we really are, including the limitation of feeling separate from everyone and everything around us. Those limitations are non-native, but for the purposes of incarnation, we take them on deeply so that we can have this very well-defined, meaningful, and valuable human experience. The veil permits the experience of separation and permits you to feel like just the human, to be just the human that you are. And why is that important? Why is that valuable? Because it's precisely through the perspective of just being the human that you can make these choices and have these experiences that are so valuable for you to make. If you had full conscious knowledge of your full connectedness to all things, you wouldn't be able to make choices as the human. If you want to be the human, you got to be the human all the way, and that is what the veil permits. The veil is necessary primarily for three reasons. The first is it allows you to be completely immersed in being the human character and to make choices from the perspective of that character. The second is that it allows you to not get distracted by any of the higher context that's occurring right now. In other words, it allows you to remain focused into the human experience. And the third is that the veil protects us from homesickness. Because if we had full conscious memory of where we came from, the desire to go home would be overwhelming, whereas here we are protected from that homesickness by the veil.
Discuss the role of free will in a given incarnation.
Free will is the active ingredient that is always at work. Before we come to be human, we sign up for the context and all the circumstances that we will engage, but what that really permits is the opportunity for choice making, for the free will choice making of both you and all the other people on the planet. And that free will choice making is very important because free will is rooted in the quality of our intention. What is the quality of the intention that we are bringing into any choice making? Are we making choices that are rooted in love or fear? Love is our true nature. So loving intention aligns with the true nature, the true unity of being from which we come. Whereas fear-based intention is in alignment with the illusion, the non-native illusion of separation. Fear hurts. And when we make choices that are aligned with fear and ego being that which tries to come to the rescue because of our fear, when we make choices in alignment with ego and fear, we end up hurting ourselves and hurting others. We can release that fear. We don't have to be afraid. There's not actually any reason to fear anything in our lives. This whole experience here is a gift, an opportunity, And when we can find the love and the joy in it and shine through it, we return to being aligned with that connectivity, that unity, that power of being from which we come. That is a beautiful and wonderful process.
What is death?
Death is simply the end of the physical constraints. The cessation of the bodily activity is just the limitations of the human condition being released, and the pre-existing spirit then continues on past the end and is able to exist in a state that is no longer fettered or limited by the limitations of the human condition and all the constraints that go along with it. Coming and being human on Earth is like going on a great adventure out into the wilderness, or perhaps like going into outer space, putting on an astronaut suit and going out into a relatively hostile environment. When we're done with that experience and we take off the astronaut suit or we return home from our journey in the wilderness, it's like going home. You know, where we come from is those higher realms, and we all seek that and miss it. We all know that as where we truly come from. This is not our true home, but when we release the limitations of the human experience, we can and do always return home.
Describe the life review.
After the physical experience has concluded, we may review that life, review that physical experience from many different perspectives. That is, not just from our own perspective, but from the perspectives of all the other players that we interacted with or that we affected, even if we affected them many ripples away from ourselves. And that can be helpful because basically we can see exactly who we are. It's one thing to say, oh, I'm a very kind person. It's another to look into your life and see all the ways you really were kind, or all the ways that perhaps you were less kind than you could have been. The life review is the opportunity to experience all that and to really understand it so that we can learn and grow.
Do spirit guides or angels assist us?
There are guides, or what we might call angels, that watch over and accompany us here on Earth. We have both individual guides, that is, guides who are kind of dedicated to us and remain with us throughout the course of a life. And there are also guides that come to us during periods when we might need some certain guidance or some certain nudge. Guides that may be very evolved in certain vibrations, certain types of experience. They may come and assist us as well. So guides tend to be very respectful to maintain the veracity of the simulation. That is, they respect our free will and our ability to choose and to learn our own lessons. But guides do guide us, they do help us. Those nudges that they provide may be provided in various ways. We might feel a certain emotional nudge, a vibrational nudge. We might experience a dream or some kind of sensation. And it may even be that they gently nudge something in the physical environment that may be a high uncertainty event in some small way so as to nudge us back onto a path.
Is life on the physical plane an illusion?
The experience of the physical universe is a real experience of a non-fundamentally real set of form. So in that sense, we might say that the physical world is like a dream or like an illusion, but the experience is real. We're having a real experience here, and it's through that real experience that we really grow. We really integrate this experience and grow from it. But is the substance of this physical universe fundamentally real? No. What's fundamentally real is consciousness, spirit itself. And spirit knows the forms of the earth. It has the experience of them within itself and for itself. But those forms will pass. The physical universe is a set of forms that are occurring within consciousness. So we experience those forms through sensory information, through sight and sound and touch and hearing. Those are sensory experiences that occur in and on our consciousness. We also experience it through thoughts, through feelings of the body. But all of those forms are not fundamentally real. What's fundamentally real is the consciousness that knows the forms. And it's important to point out that that consciousness transcends those forms right now. So even though we're veiled right now and we're appearing to only be here in the earth context, it is our association with the form that makes that sense of separation so deep. It's our sense of association with the story that keeps us so deeply locked into it. Whereas our true nature, the nature of consciousness and spirit itself, it already fully transcends the physical right now. And that is why it is possible for people to have like out-of-body experiences or other non-physical experiences. We can look away from the form of the dream, and in so doing, return to the deeper portions of ourselves that were already transcending that dream the whole time. So how do we awaken from the dream, as it were? Well, that's a very personal question, but I'll just mention a metaphor in case it helps. Being in the physical is kind of like watching a movie. When you go into a movie theater and you watch the movie on the screen, you forget all about the room that you're sitting in. You're so focused on the forms on the screen, all of the images and the story and the sound, that you lose yourself in the movie. Now, when the movie's over, you simply get up, walk out of the theater, and you know that it was never truly real. You never really were in danger. Well, our physical lives are kind of like that. It's like right now we are focused so deeply on the movie that we forget that we're actually sitting in the theater. So when we're able to let go of all of our focus on the thinking and on the sense data of the physical universe, it is like we take a step back towards being the being that is sitting in the theater the whole time.
Where is heaven?
Having the human experience is like falling asleep in heaven to have the dream of being human. Okay, so then we might ask, where is heaven? Because we believe that reality is primarily comprised of this physical distance that we experience every day. But the entire physical universe of distance takes place within something that fully transcends it. And so, heaven is not some distant place. It's here right now. We are already in heaven, connected to heaven, just deeply focused here into this physical experience. If we change our vibration and our focus, we move very naturally back towards those higher realms of light from which we come. So someone might ask, how do we return to heaven, as it were, after the body dies? Well, the human experience is more like a set of constraints that we are wearing. And when the body dies, those constraints are simply dropped. And when the constraints are dropped, we very quickly return vibrationally to a state of awareness in which we can very quickly return to that much higher vibrational state of being from which we come. We never truly left in the first place. So death is just the letting go of what we weren't in the first place. It's kind of like the end of the dream. And we wake up and realize, oh, the more real reality from which we come never went anywhere. And in a sense, it was only like we were asleep in the human experience.
Where is God?
So we might ask, where is God, or where is Source? Again, this reality that we're experiencing right now is not fundamentally real. We experience a place of distance, but that entire experience of distance is like a simulation. And you could say that the simulation has arisen within that which is already fundamentally real. And at the very root of that is Source, God. So you could say that what really is the most fundamentally real thing is Source, or God. The ocean of being of which we are a part, that is what is most real. And the rest is like layers and layers of dreams that take place within that pre-existing source. If we had to use one word to describe God or Source, it would be the word love. Now, love in the human sense is a very limited word. It means a certain, perhaps, emotion to us. But the love of Source is far beyond any given human emotion. It is full acceptance, full embracing, full celebration, full freedom, full joy. And that is the very stuff of what God is. God is not just impersonal, though, either. God is the full I am, the full sentience, the full presence of that which knows. And it is, you could say, like our best friend, our best loving parent. It is that which we are always seeking to return to, that which knows us best, that which we seem to have forgotten, but we all sense is just around the corner. And that love that we seem to have forgotten, that is the substance of God and Source, of which we are a part as well. Love is the substance of what we really are. You know how you feel the love for perhaps your family, your parents, or maybe your children? Imagine that feeling, except magnified by 1,000,000 or 10,000,000. A feeling of such connectedness and joy and freedom and power that you have no limitation. You can do anything and be anything. That is the substance of what we are. That love, it transcends all language, and it's far greater than anything we can even experience here on earth. But it is our true nature, and that is true no matter how deep and mired we may get in the human story. The way that we experience love here as humans is quite different than the great divine love that is so impossible to describe. As humans, our love is largely based on conditions or circumstances, and because we have so much fear and the quality of our intention is not always the best, often our relationships and what we call love, often it's rooted in selfishness or ego or fear. Whereas divine love is beyond all description. It is completely and totally open. It is so accepting, so unconditional. The unconditionalness of God's love for us cannot be stressed enough. There is nothing you could possibly do that would separate you from that love. You cannot lose it. It is just beyond language how deeply you are personally loved. And that quality of love is something that really we only experience as a glimmer here as humans on earth.
Many believe we're shifting to a higher consciousness on this planet. Do you agree? And if so, can you describe this shift?
The Earth is currently going through an awakening process. What that means is the human collective consciousness, and not only the human consciousness, but all the consciousness of Earth, is currently working through a great growth pattern. We are overcoming many old fears that have been persisting for thousands of years on our planet. We are meeting a lot of the old us versus them thinking that we have so deeply ingrained and working through that so that we can help each other evolve and help the temperature of the water, to help the whole pond within the ocean, to increase its vibration and to bring us all to a new level of love and joy here on Earth.
What are some practical applications of the idea that we're eternal spiritual beings?
You are an eternal being. You can't actually die. There is no end to this wonderful experience. There are just sojourns into certain states of limitation or perspective. They all ultimately serve the life from which you come. And that life, it cannot die. It has no end. And you get to choose what to make of this life or the time after this life is over. While we are human, we can better live our lives if we live lives according to love rather than fear. Now, love is not just one emotion. It can mean so many things. It can mean compassion, kindness, humility, bravery, ownership, personal responsibility. There are so many things that love means. It's a quality of intention. Whereas fear, that is when we are focused on serving the self, on protecting the self, on rising up ego patterns like beliefs and self-justifications. Living in alignment with that is painful, and it does not give rise to the optimal way we can interact with each other. So if we choose love in our own lives, love in our own hearts, we actually not only affect those around us by the actions that we end up taking, but we actually change the temperature of the water in the collective consciousness of humanity just by choosing love, in the quiet of our own bedroom, for instance, or meeting your own fear quietly as you're driving down the street. That actually has an effect on all of humanity, even though you can't see it.
Are we judged or punished for our mistakes in the afterlife?
There is no ultimate judgment or punishment. It's not like we're judged like, oh, you did a terrible job. No, we see who we are and we judge ourselves because we have the data. You could say wisdom is not automatic even, but that we see and actually feel how we affected others. And there's no refuting because that's actually what we did. That's actually who we are. And through knowing that, we gain precious perspective on who we really are so that we can continue to actually grow towards love, actually conquer our fear, actually overcome our shortcomings. That's really what we're here to do, is to really work on and refine the quality of what we are. And the life review helps us to really come to terms with that and to see it clearly. The learning that we come to do on earth is not intellectual, it's experiential. It's a growth of the being by being something. It's an experiential knowing of a perspective or a context or a choice-making opportunity. And intellectual learning, of course, is a part of that, and that is meaningful and important. But what we come to grow is the quality of our being, the quality of our intention itself. That is a very deep and personal, a very core change. The intellect then, the thoughts and the ideas, they are far subsequent to that. They take place on the surface and they reflect the quality of the being, but they are not the same as the quality of being. We're here to actually grow, to actually become more fearless, more loving. And that process is not purely an intellectual process.
Is there such a thing as hell?
Hellish reality experiences can happen here on Earth or in certain thought-responsive reality systems. We can say very simply that fear, living in fear, and living in the interpretations of fear and getting associated with them is hell. And we can experience that here on Earth or in a reality system that responds to our beliefs, expectations, and our own fears. However, very importantly, all the realities of form are not fundamental, and fear can only be experienced when we do not know who we truly are. Our true nature is complete and total freedom, love, joy. That is what we really are. And we will always return to that one way or the other. We may make sojourns into realities of form or into certain low vibration thought responsive reality systems, and we may have very high contrast experiences in those realities for a time, but they are not fundamentally real. The fundamentally real thing is love and power and joy, and we always do return to that. That is our true nature.
Discuss the idea of oneness/unity and how we can apply it in our everyday lives.
While we are on Earth, we have a profoundly deep experience of separation. We feel separate from each other. We feel separate from the world around us. In fact, we assume that that is how reality is. But at the fundamental level of being, we are not separate. In fact, all of us are connected. We are all a part of the one great ocean. And in higher reality systems, it is very normal to feel that connectedness, to actually see for that being over there or even that place over there, to see and feel that they are a part of us and we are a part of them. That oneness of being does not preclude individuation. We're still individuated. We're still ourselves. But that being ourselves also is knowing the oneness that we have with each other and with all things. And that is a much truer and more natural state of being.
Do we create our own realities?
So while the experience of Earth may be very rigorous at times, it's very important to point out that this experience is fundamentally neutral. It is us who apply the meaning. We, as consciousness, assign the meaning to these neutral circumstances. Now, we may experience pain, or we may see certain things, hear certain things, understand certain things. But in the end, you are the author of your experience. You do get to apply the meaning. There's no one else besides you who interprets the meaning of life for you. That power is always yours.
What does our soul want us to know?
So what would your soul want you to know? Well, first of all, you aren't different than your soul. You are your soul. You are the you that feels like you to you, that precious you that you feel within you. The question is, what does that authentic you mean in your life? Choose that. Have the freedom and the bravery to choose to be the real you, to face and overcome your fears and to embrace the opportunities that life presents you. Our souls want us to know there is nothing to fear. Our true nature is such that we cannot truly experience harm. We cannot be separated from the source of love from which we come. This experience is just an opportunity to engage rich and rigorous constraints, rich contexts. But no matter what, we do not have to be afraid. We are completely free, completely powerful beings. There is nothing ultimately to fear in this experience, especially when we embrace it, when we fully allow, when we feel everything that we feel, when we experience everything of earth tangibly in a real way. We do not have to be afraid. Fear is not native to who we are. To be given the opportunity to play a human character is such a precious and profound opportunity. There are only so many slots. There's only so many avatars, you could say. And the number of players that are interested in playing this game vastly exceeds the number of slots that are available. The soul has to also even have a certain level of proficiency to even take on an experience of this level of limitation. So to be given a chance to play a human, it is a profound gift. In my own experience, I felt like I was being given a winning lottery ticket, even though I knew that I was signing up for an experience that might be extremely difficult for me here on Earth. As strange as this may sound, you are not a human. You are you. You are you having the experience of being a human. You may think that you means the body or the story or the circumstances of your life, but no, you are you, and that you is far more than just human. You are you, and that will remain past the end of the human experience. And that is something that we actually can tangibly know now, even while we are so deeply associated with the physical.
Is there a positive message or message of hope you'd like to leave us with?
Despite how the surface may appear, despite the limitations of your body or the limitations you experience in your life, you are a profoundly powerful being. It's not just wordplay. Your true nature is creative and powerful, incredibly powerful. You are so powerful that you can actually meet the difficulties of your life and grow through them and heal. You can love. You can love the people next to you. You can help this world to move upward, to overcome all the rigors and all the crap that we seem to have created for ourselves over the thousands of years. And so what you focus on here, what you believe about this experience, it's very important. You have the ability to change the world, not only through your actions, but in how you meet your own fear, how you meet your own difficulties. When you choose love, when you choose freedom and joy, even in a small way, you are actually powerfully helping the entire collective consciousness of humanity to rise, to move up, and to help. You're helping all of us to heal all that junk that's down there over the thousands of years. So, as strange as it may sound, you are not a human. You are you having the experience of being a human. And why is that important? It's important because many times in the human experience, we get so deeply associated with the forms and with the stories. And when we do that, we suffer. We end up buying into all the fear, buying into all the must-dos, buying into all the pressure and all the stress and all the limitations that we experience every day. But who you are is a being that so vastly transcends those limitations, and you get to apply the meaning to your life. You can live joyfully here and now. The human experience is something you are engaging and you get to use, and you get to decide how you will use it. You are a multidimensional being of love. That is what you are. And there is no way you can truly fail this experience. Yes, it can be very rigorous being human. Yes, there are many challenges that arise in our lives. Those challenges are opportunities. And ultimately, you cannot fail. Your being fully transcends all of this wonderful movie that we're playing right now, and you get to place the meaning on that movie. You get to choose love rather than fear. Your life here can be full of joy. That is our true nature.